Welcome back to another edition of USEA's Global Briefing. My name is Melissa Brown, and I'm a Senior Program Coordinator here at the United States Energy Association. And I am joined today by Bjarni Pálsson, the Executive Vice President for Wind and Geothermal with the National Power Company of Iceland. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Melissa. I'm actually great.
Great, wonderful. So Iceland is famous for having an electricity grid that is nearly 100% renewable. However, the total energy budget still includes fossil fuels for the fishing fleet and transport. What is the current roadmap for closing that final 15% gap to reach full carbon neutrality?
Yes, very good question. We have been very proud to be practically 100% when it comes to heating and electricity in Iceland. However, being quite far away from the neighboring countries in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, we depend heavily on fossil fuels still for our fishing fleet and airplanes and flights. So when we come to options to reduce our carbon emissions, we really are looking at those two sectors and how we can minimize that. Uh, so the government has been trying various different things to try to encourage these industries to find solutions. Of course, we are also very much depending on technological developments in the neighboring countries. But we are looking at encouraging airlines to use planes that use less fossil fuel. Same with the fishing fleet as well. And there has been quite a lot of I would say, replacement of the fishing fleet in the last few years, where the government has been encouraging the fishermen to change their boats for newer, more modern, and more efficient boats. So that's what we are doing in the meantime. We are hoping for e-fuels to become an option in the near future, but we, of course, still have to wait for that technology to develop.
Oh, yes. And Iceland has become a premier destination for the international data centers due to its naturally cool climate and renewable power. How do you balance the high energy demands of global tech giants with the needs of local Icelandic industries and residents?
Well, Iceland is blessed with quite a lot of good renewable energy resources. So we have glaciers in the mountains feeding our hydropower plants. We have quite a lot of volcanoes feeding our geothermal plants. And on top of that, we are a windy country. So we have quite a few options still for very, I would say, efficient and economically competitive wind resources as well. So for only 400,000 inhabitants, we have the option, I would say, to attract new industries to Iceland and to come and utilize our renewable resources. And we have historically had quite a lot of metal melting businesses, especially aluminum. But we are now looking at our diversification. So we have been building up quite a lot of uh, data centers, I would say more traditional and moderately sized, um, on top of several other industries. But we are now seeing these AI data centers showing interest in coming in Iceland, and they need quite a lot of power, I would say.
Oh, yes. And speaking of power and plants, there's a lot of buzz around a 300 megawatt sustainable aviation fuel plant in Keflavik and the push for hydrogen powered shipping. In your view, is green hydrogen the most viable, exportable form of Icelandic energy, or is it better suited for domestic energy independence?
I think well, my company has been working quite a lot into the e-fuel market, and uh, and we concluded last year that we thought that e-fuel are not competitive at the moment. But we are also following very closely the progress of that. And I think a 300 megawatt biofuel or e-fuel plant could serve the industry here in Iceland very well as a start. We need more than that to feed all of our fishing fleet and our aviation fleet as well. We probably need more than 1,000 megawatt for that. But a 300 megawatt would be a very good start. And, so we are very interested to follow what's happening in that.
Oh yes, and with projects like Carbfix that have put Iceland on the map for turning CO2 into stone, how is business ice how are your organization working to export climate tech as a service to other nations that don't have Iceland's unique geology?
Yes, our company was like the other geothermal companies here in Iceland, working closely with the company Reykjavik Energy, that is the owner of the Carbfix technology. And we have been, as I say, following that development very closely. And at the moment, implementing that in one of our geothermal plants. And we have aims to actually implement that in all of our geothermal power plants in the near future. So basically re-injecting all the greenhouse gases that come up to the surface with the geothermal fluid and re-injecting that back into the ground. Catfish is more ambitious than that. They want not only to re-inject the carbon uh, or the CO2 and the methane from the geothermal plants, they also want to implement that for various industries and offering also developments and solutions that fit for other geological settings than only the basalt region that we have here in Iceland so much, and is the ideal starting point. But I believe also that can be adapted for various other applications as well. So it's a very exciting technology in my mind.
Oh yes, it is. And with the recent and ongoing volcanic eruptions in the peninsula, there have been concerns about energy infrastructure resilience. How is the Icelandic energy sector adapting its trade and invest pitch to reassure global partners that the grid remains stable despite natural events?
Yep. Well, we are a country that depends very much on these natural forces like glaciers that are melting, like volcanoes that are erupting, but are also feeding the heat for our geothermal plants. So this is something we are constantly living with, and I think we have shown resilience throughout the years to adapt. I mean, the case we are looking at now in the Reykjanes Peninsula is a very good example of that. There have been, I think, 6 or 7 eruptive events just in the vicinity of the power plant, and the power plant has hardly stopped, and it actually has been expanded during that period of time. So what we are showing, we have been showing ability to adapt and meet, and but this is I would say a fact of our life is this geothermal threat and or geological threat, and all of these eruptions take end, and then we just continue as normal. We showed that also in our Krafla geothermal power plant in the north of Iceland, where we had 9 volcanic eruptions in the vicinity of the power plant over a 9-year period, and we just kept on going after that.
Oh, yes. And our last question, as the Arctic warms and becomes a focal point for global trade routes, what role does Iceland see itself playing? Do you envision Iceland as a green hub for a new era of Arctic resource management and shipping?
Well, the climate change is both giving us some threats, but also we are admitting it gives us a lot of opportunities as well. So we are looking at our geographical location in the North Atlantic as an opportunity to offer services for ships sailing in that region and various other services like refuel service, like a hub uh, for yeah, the various different services to these opportunities. We can also provide green e-fuel in the future when that becomes economically viable. And there are many different opportunities for us in that region. So we think we are in a very strong position for the future.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Mr. Pálsson, for taking the time to speak with us and sharing the Icelandic energy perspective with our audience. And thank you to our listeners for watching. And if you want to learn more about USEA, you can go to our website at usea.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much.